Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Faith Family Focus. I am one of your co-hosts, Faith Suggs, former Duke women's basketball graduate, CEO and founder of Brand by Faith, and marketing manager for SIG Sports. And this wonderful man next to me is my father, as you can tell by his shirt, Schaefer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, and has also served as VP and on the executive board for the RPFPC, the NFLPA Chicago. Good morning, Dad. How are you?
I'm doing good. Very sad. We lost our running back for the Jets for the year. Priest got a torn ACL, so I'm still recovering from that. But they did pull out a win. So other than that, it's a great Monday. The weather is still spectacular here in Chicago.
Yeah, what's going on here? What's going on? It seems like things are a little backwards. I can remember every other time I've spent around this time of the year, it's a little chilly.
Yeah.
Well, but I heard there was a warm front across the board in a lot of places.
Yes, it is.
So that's nice. Very nice. Hopefully it will stick for Halloween for the kids for the first Halloween post-pandemic.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, Halloween, falls on a Monday again, huh? Wow.
No. Is it Monday?
Yes, 31st is the Monday.
Mm-hmm. Always seems to do that.
So you have your costume, your Teletubby costume?
No. But we'll show Halloween costumes next Monday.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, I think I have all of them.
So the weather's nice. Football yesterday. This has been a really great week of football, a really good week for basketball. But I wanted you to go ahead and have your celebratory conversation. I know you guys lost your running back, but yesterday the New York Jets went and advanced 5-2.
Yeah, they beat the Broncos 16-9. In a decade, the best record in a decade, over 10 years. Good start, 5-2. It's a tremendous walk because he was a game changer. I mean, I don't know if you saw earlier in the game, but he ran a touchdown for 60 yards for a touchdown.
So do you think that he's that big of a game changer that this is like basically, all right, it's over now?
Well, but yeah, it's going to hurt. But I think what keeps them in the game is their defense. The defense is really, really strong. And as long as they keep people out of the end zone, I mean, I don't know, the Broncos score three field goals, not even a touchdown. So,
yeah, I don't know. Does that say, and answer this question, does this say more? Does that say more about the Jets defense or Russell Wilson's offense?
Well, Russell was hurt, so Russell didn't play.
Okay, so because I've heard the rumors, there's been rumblings of a little bit displeasure in Denver this season with
right. Well, they're not winning, so yeah. When you're not winning, that's
always that way. Yes,
right. So it's interesting, Faith. I mean, just really clear. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but if you look at it, Tampa Bay with Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers with Green Bay. There's a change. You talked about a changing of the guards. The changing of the guards is happening. You got Buffalo. You have Kansas City. Well, Tua is playing really well in Miami. You got some teams playing really well. You know what's playing well is with the exit of Russell Wilson, Seattle is playing really well with Geno Smith, the Jets draft quarterback that they drafted in back in 2014, I think it was.
Yeah, to West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well for us.
And he's playing really, really well. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess that was but you know what? Whenever you're losing, it's always rough. The Raiders finally got their what win is this for them? But they beat the Texans yesterday.
Well, Raiders beat the Texans 36-20, right?
So the Raiders were a favorite this season because they made some of the biggest moves in the offseason besides the Miami Dolphins. And they have not, and I said this maybe 4 weeks ago, they have not so far, when they started, I think they started 0-3 in the season. They have not done what they needed to do, which I wonder if that's just growing pains with adjusting to a new roster, which the new roster, they brought in offense at the end of the day, and that's going to alter everything. Dolphins win, Chiefs win. Chiefs win bad. So I don't know if you know this, but yesterday was National Tight End Day. So I have to ask you who your favorite tight end is.
What, current or all-time tight end?
All time. Well, and then tell me, because I have another question for you, because I know you can answer this better than Shane did.
Well, one of my favorite tight ends was one of my dear friends was Rich Gaster for the Jets. I played against 3 great tight ends. Ozzie Newsome, who was one of the first general managers in professional football. Mm-hmm. Russ Francis and Dave Casper. Those are to me, they were your prototypical tight ends. And now, tight ends is a very, very, very important position right now. So
I think it's the important of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point to make. So what is it that makes a tight end great? Because I was really trying to figure this out yesterday, and they were talking about Travis Kelce and Kittle and their ability, one, their size, but also the way they say Travis Kelce runs routes significantly better than everybody else.
He's a receiver it's an oversized receiver that can block. It's a nightmare. And when you cover the receiver, so when you cover a receiver as a cornerback, you have the sidelines.
Right.
When you're inside covering a tight end, you have the whole field to try to guard him, and it's hard. And a lot of times, linebackers are covering tight ends, and that's a mismatch.
Right.
So when you get a good tight end, Grodowski that the Tampa Bay had, those tight ends, they're game changers. Especially when they can run routes and they have decent 4.5, 4.6 speed. I mean, these guys are now. I mean, when I was at the Jet reunion, we were actually on the field. The tight ends were warming up next to us, and the size of these guys, Faith, was just 6'6", 6'5", 260, 250, 280, and these guys are, they were like this very agile, very, very fast. So yeah, it's a very important position. I thought your brother could. I don't know if your brother could ever get that big. That's why they had him going back and forth quarterback to wideout, because probably the heaviest he's ever been is 225. His frame, But for him to play tight end, he's got to be at 250.
Yeah, was that always the case?
What's that?
Was that always the case, that the size and weight of tight ends?
Well, yeah, the size was always important because tight ends block. They're very key to blocking, because they not only have to block alignment, they got to come out and block a lot of times linebackers. So they got to do edge. They sometimes got to block defensive backs.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to block and release and go out for a pass.
Right. And I think that's what they said. I think Kansas City Chiefs they were discussing. They had a conversation with the coach, and they were talking about what makes Travis Kelce so significantly better and as much of an asset it is for the Chiefs. And the coach was like, well, we have offenses, and then Travis runs routes, and our offenses go around the routes Travis runs, and we kind of just let him run across the field. And I think that's exactly what you're touching on, is they block, but to be able to release and then float around, that's a nightmare. That's a nightmare for defenses to try to adjust to, especially in today's game. So it was interesting to see all that. I had never seen them break down the tight end. But in the last years, the most highest paying, besides the quarterbacks, we have seen be tight ends, whether it's with Gronkowski, whether it's Travis Kelce, whether it's Kittle. I mean, there's been an amazing group of tight ends the last 2 seasons that they were highlighting on. So I thought it was really neat to watch that. And I did have a question for you, and I'm glad you answered it, which was, what was it makes them so much of an asset to an organization? But you know what? I also see a lot of tight ends stick with the same organization for a longer period of time than other positions, which is interesting as well.
Yeah. So here's that your rankings on the. I wanted to pull that up for you because you're right. Actually, they go in order. So quarterbacks. Wow. So right now, currently 2002, quarterbacks, and then interior defensive linemen, wide receivers, edge rushers, offensive linemen, cornerbacks. Actually, tight ends are down on the bottom, okay? Cornerbacks, linebackers, safeties, running back, and then tight ends.
Right.
But these are the these are that may not be the average. This is NFL highest paid players by position. Okay, so maybe if you average them out, tight ends might be up there. But look at fullbacks and running backs are way down the list. You know, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
So highest paid quarterback is Aaron Rodgers at $50 million a year. And the highest paid wide receiver is Tyreek Hill at $30 million a year. Wow.
And Tyreek Hill is a very
yeah. And then Christian McCaffrey, who just got traded to the 49ers, is making $16 million a year.
Well, Christian McCaffrey is pretty good.
Yeah, his father was really good.
What you don't know this is I had class with his brother. Max McCaffrey was a football player at Duke University. So he had two kids there, one at Duke and one at Stanford.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Funny stuff. All right. Now that we're finally into another week, we see the Jets have gone 5-2. Good morning. Good morning. Who is going to win the Super Bowl this year? Who's not going to win the Super Bowl first?
Well, I know the Packers are not going to win the Super Bowl. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not going to win the Super Bowl. Titans are not going to win the Super Bowl.
Buccaneers not winning a Super Bowl seems quite.
The Bears are not going to win the Super Bowl. The Bears are not going to win the Super Bowl. Right? There's a lot of teams that are going to win the Super Bowl. Lions are not going to win the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah. That was not fair. Every year it's not fair. A slow spark of greatness, and then they're in the Jets position now.
Right. So, well, you guys are teams right now. So what's happening right now for our viewers? What's happening right now is you see how injuries impact the season. So we're 5-6 games into the season. Teams are losing players because of injuries. How it impacts certain positions. Right. Now, Jets were able to win. Of course, Denver wasn't able to win, but they have not been able to impact an offense. The Packers got people down too. I mean, the Packers traded away a great receiver, and that impacted them. So,
I think the Packers are throwing this one.
Right.
I thought they were trying yesterday. I really did. I watched a little bit of the game, but yeah, I don't think I think they've made a decision at this point.
Right.
That they're going to go for the first draft pick.
So you mean not winning more games?
Yeah, I think that they're going to have to make a decision soon. You know what is it? The extension of from 8 games to 10 games? What is the extension? It's plus 2 games.
Yeah.
With plus 2 games, and we're seeing injuries already. I'm very interested to see if that impacts in general the playoffs.
It will impact. It always does. I mean, so the team that's playing the best at the end of the season, but the team that can get those players back. It's 17 games. So you got a season that goes from early September to when of course the Super Bowl is in February. So let me see that. So that's September, October, November, December, January. Almost 5 months. 6 months, right? So
trying to play football. I mean, basketball has the longest season.
Right.
I do think the NBA has the longest season ever, and I think it's ridiculous. 90 plus games. But football, for the type of physicality that they go through every day, to play more games, the plus 2 games this season, I'm very interested to see what the playoffs start to look like. And then the Super Bowl as well. And it is sad the Jets lost their running back because it's almost like now it's the race towards who can keep their full roster the longest.
Who can get their guys back?
Well, some of them aren't coming back. Well, because the injuries you have in the NFL, they're not coming back. They'll come back next season. And it's interesting they had an ACL yesterday because very rarely you see ACLs.
That was pretty solid.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Sad. You rarely see those. You see a lot of head injuries, of course, shoulder injuries, and you see a lot of lateral knee injuries. Never an ACL. So very interesting that you said that.
Right.
Sad. Got 8-9 months ahead of him. But yeah, no, that's why I asked that question because I really did want to know, with the injuries already starting now, and we're already starting to see some teams pull away, how does it impact the playoffs? But it's just going to be the race to see who can stay the healthiest the longest and try to get guys back and just really buckle down and hold it out. Who is your favorite? Who do you think's going to do it?
You give me about 4 more weeks and I'll tell you. Right now it's too hard to tell. What?
I ask you every week. I'm trying to see if your predictions stick through week to week.
Buffalo right now is the best team in the league.
Yeah, and they're healthy too.
Buffalo is the best team in the league.
Buffalo, I would never, ever sit out the Chiefs. So the Buffalo.
Well, definitely the Chiefs. But right now, Buffalo is the best team. They're playing the best football right now. Barring any injuries, right now, today, it will be Buffalo. Kansas City might be number 2. Some teams are coming back. But I said, it's almost like movie Any Given Sunday.
Yeah.
Any Given Sunday, right now, with the way the injuries are unfolding, teams could, teams can lose, right? So, you hear Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady answer questions, and it's just baffling. Basically, we're just not good enough. We're not playing good football. As great as they are, the 2 of the greatest quarterbacks ever, having to sit and justify why they're losing and why guys are not playing hard enough. It's hard for them. Those are winners.
It's over, though. It gets to a point in their career. We've seen it in a lot of quarterbacks. You can no longer, your talent no longer is enough to overcome the rest of the team's discrepancies. Any team.
You know what? Here's the thing, Faith. That's right. But over the last 4 years, both of their talent, physical talent, but they've been able to keep people around them. That's the big
thing. And here's another thing is when you retire, unretire, retire, unretire, when you don't get the vaccine, get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine, get the vaccine, regardless of what it is, I want you to see the bigger picture. You surround yourself with conversation. So that time that you're surrounding yourself with conversation, you're normally either in Tampa Bay working with the guys in the offseason. They say Tom Brady in the offseason, they said there was no offseason for Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. They said Tom Brady would have the Patriots out there. As soon as the season started, he gave them 2 weeks and they'd be out there in Florida prepping for the New England season. So now I will say this, but we see this in a lot of players. It's really hard to win your whole career. Michael Jordan, I don't know do you know how old he was in his last championship? Because we're looking at, let's say age in the situation. So the greatest leaders in their sports today, let's say Tom Brady, we've seen Aaron Rodgers, we've seen LeBron James, we've seen the older guys all be successful. LeBron James, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers still playing, right? And so I'm just trying to see, it's a really hard thing to do to win until the very end, no matter who you are, right? And I think Tom Brady is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. There's no question. People believe in that. But it is really hard to do it all the way to the end because we've seen Tom Brady continuously win with the misfit toys. We've seen that, Dad. That's something he's famous for, him and Belichick. So to see him go into this season, and you can very much see it's not his talent that's kind of wavering. It's the fact that they're just not a good team. So that's just very interesting to see as they get older, how much longer they're willing to invest in this emotional roller coaster that's, the NFL season or their careers.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers, it's hard, right? It's hard to do it all. When in comparison, your first 10 years, you kind of were just living the life. You're at the high of your talent, your higher career, but also the life off the field is perfectly fine, right? So all those things. And then, you just see them as they get older, it gets harder to win. It really does.
So it looked like Michael Jordan was 38 years old. 38 when he won. Was he 38?
Championship?
Hold on. No, it was earlier than that. Younger than that. So he was 34 years old when he won in 19.
Yeah, I was gonna say because Michael Jordan, he could have got out earlier than everybody else, and technically he made an impact on the league faster than anyone else we ever seen, besides of course LeBron James. So that's what I was just saying is it's hard to see. And where do these guys, when they hit a certain age, do they keep winning or do they not keep winning? And when do that start to? do the down time. But I'm very interested to see what the off season for both of them looks like, because we didn't even know Aaron was going to be a Green Bay Packer this year. Right. So it is Crucial Catch Month, though, in the NFL. I know you wanted to tap on that.
Well, Breast Cancer Month, October, is always a month that we, as a country, you said there's a Cancer Awareness Month every month. It's a devastating disease, obviously impacted our lives. So I'd like to always continue to have a narrative around bringing awareness to it. This month for the NFL, I was honored to be a ambassador for the former players of Chicago. Last year I was an ambassador for Crucial Catch. And this month, the NFL is also bringing awareness to breast cancer through their Crucial Catch program, and every team, all the commercials, all their merchandise. It's really great to be able to do this and be able to bring that level of awareness. I know what we want to do on our show, Behind the Face Mask. There's 2 or 3 players whose families have been impacted by breast cancer. My brother Mike, was impacted by breast cancer with his lovely wife Gina, who lost it. We had him on the show, and both of us know people that have people in our lives that have been impacted by breast cancer. But we encourage people to constantly get yearly checkups. Constantly trying to stay in front of it, continue to bring awareness to it. I know every year. I don't know what is the how many times? When should women get checkups on breast cancer checkups? Right?
You're saying a mammogram?
Mammogram, yeah.
It's all right. I actually have no idea, but once you hit the age of, I believe, 21 to 24, you're supposed to begin. And as you get older, you're supposed to check more annually. So once a year, I believe. I know some women who, no matter what, will go once a year, which it's also extremely painful procedure. It's extremely uncomfortable, which people don't really know, but it's what needs to get done in order for us to actually be able to test and see if there's even any sort of way of issues within the breast cancer, but also cells. And because, with cancer, it's not just, I think a lot of people, we could touch on this as well, is just understanding. A lot of us don't know the background and the education of how cancer can move through the body and into the organs, but can happen extremely fast, where it starts in one space where your place of origin can be the breast area, but it can shift to your lungs, to your back, to your hips, to your legs, to your reproductive organs, all of the things that impact your way of life. So getting annual screenings, like you said, it's not just your annual mammograms. It's also, annual, just overall checkups, check on your blood pressure. All of these things are ways for doctors to be able to see if there's anything wrong. So by you doing the best you can with testing, your eyesight, your oral hygiene, your reflexes, your blood pressure, where you are with cholesterol, all of those things, all those numbers can be answers in some sort of way to healing your body. So staying ahead of it, staying in your annual checkups is the best way to do your best. But another thing is, you can also, and I know some women do this, is they go to, what's the Ancestry, not Ancestry.com, but they do the DNA process where they check on the genetics and the history within their family. And if you have the breast cancer gene, a lot of women will go ahead and get they stay ahead of it, right? So that's a good piece of education for them to understand, like, okay, I have this in my form of genetics. This is the way I probably, instead of doing annuals, I should be going in every half a year just to have a good conversation and stay educated on it. But that's just your way to stay ahead of it, because you don't want to be too far behind.
So Mayo Clinic supports screening between beginning at the age of 40. They're saying cancer screening guidelines for early stage should begin between 40 and 44. Should have the choice to start annual breast cancer screening mammograms.
Yeah, they're pretty, like I said, they're kind of uncomfortable and they're painful and a little demanding. That's why they try to hold it off until women are completely, they had kids already and their bodies are fully set on who they're going to be for the next 40 plus years. because right now from 21 to 40, their bodies will change significantly through childbirth, through just overall growth, weight, losing weight, all types of stuff. But also what you just shared is always go to Google and research, not WebMD, but read some of the cancer awareness sites. I know one of the couple, I get good information for melanoma. There's a bunch of amazing alliances inside and on the internet that can help you get some information. So yeah, but yeah, but that's what I was saying. You always want to stay ahead of it, because through our personal experience, we saw how quickly it can spread from maybe it starts in one space and you don't even notice it's there, to a point where it's all of a sudden spread to your lungs, your back, and that's when you start to notice things. And then you have a stage 3, stage 4 situation.
Right. It is interesting, from even with melanoma, we could talk about atheist cancer, but we have advanced so much further ahead with the different drugs and than we were 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, and which is providing a lot of hope for people that are getting, especially melanoma, right? But breast cancer, there's so much more technology out there, so much advanced medicine out there that it doesn't necessarily have to be a death sentence because if we can do early detection, but there's so much more out there. For us available.
And actually, I think earlier this year, the FDA came. There was a scientist. I can't remember what school he was from. He had basically a breakthrough for a particular drug that the FDA is now trying to approve. That doesn't cure, but it very much can almost 98% get you there. But if anybody knows anything about the cancer experience, there's plenty of drugs, like you said, plenty of drugs, plenty of trials. It's what makes cancer, similar to HIV, very hard to cure, is the fact that the cells continue to reproduce in different ways and fight your immune system. And that's what makes it hard, is that it's extremely intelligent disease. And so staying ahead of things, but also a good way for you to stay involved and stay educated is by donating money towards some of these scientists and some of these clinical trials, so that they financially don't have to continuously go look for investors, and they can all go ahead and start the testing processes early.
And I also want to say that we got to do a better job of providing resources for those underserved communities, women, that are underserved in those communities when it comes to breast cancer.
Yeah, Black women in particular have a higher chance of breast cancer. What people don't know, and this is actually something I was reading up on today, and this is not just cancer, it's all terminal diseases. From a very young age, Black and brown children are eating more processed foods, less higher quality vegetables and fruits, because financially in their areas, there isn't a Whole Foods, there isn't a Harvest Market, there isn't, right? Even if they are there, those food pricing significantly higher than a place such as either Target or Aldi or Walmart, and Costco's even up there as well. So their exposure to healthy foods is below none. And then as they get to the teenage years, they're normally in a household, even though we're 70% beyond where actually it's positive. You're going to love this stat, is we are now 70% up increase in 2-parent households across the entire world. So it's very positive there. But originally there were young children moving from place to place, daycare to YMCA to this. So the quickest foods they were getting were their McDonald's or Wendy's. So again, these processed foods are going in their bodies. And what we know about processed foods is they can weaken your immune system and not help you build an immune system that can fight off either cancer or the triggering pieces that can go into building a disease. And so what we see in a lot of women with breast cancer is that it's higher in the minority space, particularly Black women, but also because Black and brown people do not have access to healthcare and healthcare insurance to be able to stay ahead of annual screenings and things along those lines. So that's why donating to local clinics or targeting certain inner city communities for things like that are also a good way to stay ahead of things, but also do your part each cancer month. As well as ovarian cancer is also very high in Black women as well. But yeah, no, that's a very good point you just made, because Definitely something I read about this week that was very interesting.
Well, so again, we wanted to just touch on that. It is, from as a former player, it's really nice to see that the NFL does a really good job working with the American Cancer Society and teaming up with the Crucial Catch program to continue to bring awareness to breast cancer.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing.
But also, as men, prostate cancer, lung cancer, throat cancer is not a leading in men. I know men don't know that, but throat cancer is significant due to the HPV virus that over 75 to 80% of people have and do not know. So all types of things. So just annual screenings, cholesterol, look at the numbers, do things like that, drink more water, find ways to reset your gut, all types of ways to stay ahead of and help strengthen your immune system so that you can fight anything that comes to you. But yeah, no, great. Thank you for sharing that. Now I know we wanted to dive a little bit into, we are about a year and a half post NIL. We were going into our second NCAA basketball season for NIL. I know we wanted to touch on this a little bit. Everyone feel free to submit questions because we're going to have about a 30-minute conversation here about it and see where it takes us. But because we're a year and a half away, we wanted to kind of just have a conversation about our thoughts now that we're removed from the first year, but also what we think is going to be the future of it as well. So, Dad, I guess you as someone who's on the outside in a way, who's no longer a parent of, because Devin's at Yale, he's not doing NIL, which is a Yale problem. But what do you really feel is something you're noticing? And do you think it's positive, negative? Do you find it encouraging? Do you find it discouraging? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, you said something. I want you to remember what you said so we pivot back to it. The Yale problem. Certain schools, right, are not putting their kids in position to take advantage of NIL. Okay? Right. So we'll just touch on that. So we'll go back to schools like Yale, the Ivy League schools. But when we first when we first had our first show on, I think we had a couple of shows with our friend Craig Cheval, who offered some really good perspective on it. They was not yet had really passed the legislation in California. We were right in the beginning of it, and we were talking about how the NCAA never got in front of it, and they dropped their feet. And of course, over these years and years of just neglecting, yes, taking advantage of, and now that it's in front of them, they'll never catch up. People say, well, how do you manage it? How do you regulate it? Well, I don't think that can happen. So my question to you, one of my questions is, are kids benefiting from NIL?
Yeah.
Okay. Now.
Yes. Here's the thing. There's no way for them not to benefit NIL, because what NIL really basically did was tore down the walls between allowing them to do things that they were years allowed to do over the conversation of amateurism.
So an example of, so now a kid, and now we're not talking about the high stake kids that get the big contract sponsored, but a kid can now make.
Yeah. So before NIL, and this is still the same, kids could not gamble. They still can't gamble. They could not receive anything free from anybody. They could not accept money from anybody. They could not start a camp. They could not start a business. They could not start an LLC. All these things were limiting beyond just receiving money for opportunity, which is so crazy, because in any other situation, as a regular student, they'd be able to do that immediately. But because of their heightened position in society as an NCAA Division I athlete, or overall an athlete, that made them, in some sort of way, it's unfair for them to do that, which now
it was illegal though, right? In the NCAA bylaws, it was illegal for them to make additional revenue based off of, right?
Yeah, or even just, it was simple as this. Like if someone was like, hey, I have a business, do you want a t-shirt? No, we don't want a t-shirt. We can't accept this per NIL guidelines.
So for example, remember Reggie Bush had his Heisman Trophy, taken from him because his mom received money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look back at some of the violations back in the last 20 years that the senior.
Cam Newton was one as well. He received money from a family. Dad received money from a booster, I believe, at the University of Auburn, in order for him to go to the University of Auburn, which I hate to break it to everybody, but that happens every day. If you think Nick Saban's not having a staff that's doing that, you're losing your minds. So now that so basically all of this is legal now, except for the fact that you cannot pay an athlete to come to university. You can't literally hand them, here's $1. Now, because I gave you $1, you should come to the University of Oklahoma. You can't do that. You can't, I'm trying to think what else. There's not a lot of, it's kind of free open right now. It's open season, what you can and can't do, but that's a big one. You can't pay an athlete to throw a game. That is still a no-no, right? There's a lot of things like that, but because at the end of the day, those are illegal by those are felonies as well. But other than that, no, athletes are free to do whatever they want, which has so far been exactly what I thought it was going to be. The one thing I did not expect to happen was all of these collectives of grownups coming together and saying, all right, let's put a pot of money together, right? And then distribute it to the athletes. And because we're distributing it to them, they have to give us 5 activations. So they have an autograph signing. They have to go to Dick's Sporting Goods to take pictures with kids. They have to do a Zoom call. They have to do a classroom stop-in. Little things like that is what they get for $25,000. But these are grown-ups, boosters, alumni coming together to basically throw thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in a pot. And basically, that's a good look for the university. So you're right in the sense, like what schools and so before we even get to go deep into this conversation, there are some schools that we're seeing discrepancies between universities and levels and talent and wealth, right? The wealth at Alabama is significantly different of the wealth at Florida. And Florida is different at Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is different at NYU. And so it's a whole bunch of stuff going on with that, but it's not the athletes. It's not the kids pushing that. It's adults pushing.
So here's a question from the outside.
Yeah.
Under the table money was the term that we used back in the day, where boosters gave the kid $4,000 for their season tickets.
Yeah.
Money. Now, that's it. So that's how they were able to get it. You give me. Kids got season.
Go ahead.
Kids got season tickets every year.
Yeah.
What they would do is, and those tickets might be worth $1,000, but the booster would give them $10,000 for those season tickets. You know, that's how they would do it back in the day. Or they would give the mom money for a new car, a new house. They would do it second and third party, right? How is NIL? How are a high school kid connected? How do they connect with the NIL opportunities? Because it's not the university that can drive this opportunity, can they? How are they connected?
Never, ever. The university is and this is what made NIL so hilarious. And this is why it took so long for it to be passed. Because the NCAA protects the universities in some sort of way. The universities report to the NCAA. So the NCAA and the universities were in cahoots on making money for just themselves and not the athletes. I'm sorry, just themselves off the backs and talent of the athletes, right? And so, no, the universities must stay out of this. That's the point of it. NCAA and universities must stay out of all NIL opportunities, but they can hire compliance directors with NIL backing or education. And what they can do, and what you're seeing a lot of compliance offices at the universities do, is they'll hire that position to help educate their athletes further. They can't bring them deals, right? But what they can do is help educate them on what's legal and not legal. And these compliance officers will connect with agencies who represent the athletes to basically make sure everything's going smooth and nobody loses and becomes ineligible.
So how does a university or a coach, to me, I'm still, I'm being serious about my question here is how can they tell a player that there's going to be NIL opportunities? They can't. Okay, so
see, I'm about to blow your mind. They don't need to. You're not understanding. This thing right here, they don't need the university even being involved would slow process down. We have social media. All a brand has to do is DM a player, right? Direct message a player. They say, hey, we'd love to talk further about a possible future collaboration, paid per post, blah, blah, blah. Athlete goes, sure, I'm interested. Here's my email. Here's my agent's email. The brand then emails the player, his parents, or the agency that represents the player an agreement, an overall offer letter. The offer letter will say, we have this campaign coming up in the future, right? We just saw AT&T just did something with two women's basketball players in Tennessee and a football player. We have this campaign coming for the upcoming basketball season. We'd love for you to be a part of. The athlete goes, sure, what's the payment opportunity? It's $500 per post. It's $12,000 per post. And then these are the things that you have to do requirement. Here's what you have to say. Here's the tidbits you have to stay away from. You can't mention any competitors, all types of stuff in that. Day comes, October 25th comes, the campaign launches. The athlete then posts their thing, or they hop on whatever it is they need to go. They go to the event, whatever it is that's their demand for that event, for that campaign. Done. They give the kids a $5,000, $2,000, whatever money they owed. The athlete then has to report that into the influencer portal or whatever portal it is the university has that makes sure that all money, opportunities, anything where money is exchanged has to be reported to the university's compliance office so they can see things are legally being done. So you have to turn in the agreement. You have to turn in whoever the brand is that offered you, their first name, their last name, their emails, their phone numbers, any way to contact them. You have to turn in how much of the compensation you're getting paid. You have to turn in what you were given, what you had to do. All those things have to be done every time you make a financial cash in hand deal. And that's the only thing the university can do is to basically make sure, okay, the rules are being followed outside of our limits.
Okay, so how is it possible that there's more opportunities and endorsements at school A versus school B?
Well, let's take out schools and let's take out opportunities. Let's go back to the playground, right? Big Johnny is 6'4", 275, and he is going to go play at the University of Arizona. Everybody knows that, right? And then you have little Johnny at 6 foot, 110, soaking wet, right? And you have to go, okay, who are you going to have on your flag football team? Who are you going to pick, Big Johnny or Little Johnny? Who are you going to pick? Big Johnny. You pick Big Johnny because you're going to win, because you're going to get more opportunities. You're going to get more publicity. You're going to get more money. You're going to get more. So it makes more sense to take the bigger, more dominating, more popular athlete. And who and what schools do those athletes play at? The high levels, the Alabamas, the SEC schools, the Dukes, the North Carolinas, those schools, right?
Okay.
They have the top tier of athletes across the board.
Okay, so now at least you broke it down. So now the player has a pipeline of 5 BCS top level schools.
Right.
Now what he's going to do is look at what school, when I go to that school, who's going to give me the most in NIL opportunities? That's a school, but where am I going to get the most NIL opportunities?
Yeah, and that right there never really has been a change, because kids will always gravitate towards the school with the most money because they want the training table, they want the gear, they want the nice rooms, and the nice beds, and they get to play on ESPN2 every day. They want those opportunities. The NIL is just a bonus, right?
My question, Faith, is how do they find out? Because the school cannot provide it, right? They cannot endorse it.
I'm going to stop you there. Common sense. We got to remember, common sense pushes NIL. You know that Devin Suggs will make more money at Alabama than he will at Yale. You know that. You don't have to ask Alabama. You don't have to call Nick Saban. You don't have to ask them, so how much, and parents are doing this, how much are my kids going to make off NIL? They don't know. They're not paying them, right? It's up to you and the athlete to build the brand. So when you're looking at building a brand, right? All right, so let's build Devin Suggs. Devin Suggs is the number 3 quarterback in the nation coming out of high school. His selections are Alabama, Michigan, Tennessee, right? 3 great options. For us, one, we have to push. Well, where do you want to go to school and why? You want to win? Then that's always first, right? Because winners make more money. There's no question. You want to be a winner. You don't want to be a loser. So he's like, all right, I want to go to Alabama. Fine. We don't need to call Alabama and see how much these kids are making off NIL because Alabama won't tell us. And even if they do try to tell us, it'll never be accurate enough to how much the kids are actually making. So we have to make a decision. All right, if we want our kid to make the most money, we have to put him in an environment that he'll be on TV, that he'll win. All these things go into opportunity. They can't. So you're not. The universities aren't even a benefit to you. You are like. You keep thinking the universities have power. They don't have power. They don't have the answers.
Okay.
No. You have the answers. You have to talk to the brands. You have to hire an agent. You have to do all those things for the people that have seen these contracts, have seen the agreements. They know how much so-and-so made with the Bojangles. They know how much so-and-so made with AT&T. That's where it's the parents and the families have the power in these situations. Universities are out the window. They won't give you the answers. They can't.
So how does a coach complain about the reason I lost this player because he's got more? And so kids got the same brand, right? He's doing it. How is he? They're losing players to, Alabama versus Tennessee because that kid had more. There were more opportunities in that environment than there were in Knoxville.
It's so easy to blame something that's been happening to you for years already on something that's now new, right? Okay. Because Tennessee's been losing recruits to Alabama.
That's true.
Nick Saban took over, right?
I'm just using these as an example. I'm not saying that these are two, but I'm using it as an example.
Right, hold on. Alabama's been losing recruits to Jacksonville State because Deion Sanders is there now. It's not because Deion Sanders is handing out $1,000 checks because they can't, right? But it's along the lines of when Nick Saban said the things he said, everybody was like, "What you talking about, Nick? You've been doing
this for our view of education." What did he say?
He said it's unfair. NIL's taking away my recruits, all this stuff, blah blah blah, because Deion Sanders is taking my recruits. Nick, you've been doing that to everybody for years, legally and illegally. So it's okay. It's easy for college programs to say, well, NIL is a big difference. It is an asset and not an asset for some people. But what's really exposing the lack of credibility in that mindset is that there's kids at the Yales, there's kids at the Central Michigans, there's kids at those schools still making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 because they put the work in to build their social medias. They did the work to have 100,000 followers, 200,000 followers on social media, so that brands have to gravitate toward them because they want to work with someone who has a following. So that's where the credibility kind of falls through, because it's easy to say, like, this is such a simple way to think. If I go to Alabama, I'll make $1 million. Well, maybe, but that's just you doing it the easy way, right? You still have to play. You still have to score. You still have to make an impact. You still have to build the brand that people want to invest in, right? You'll never go to an investor and be like, hey, here's my dream. I'm creating these self-making cupcakes, and all you have to do is give me $200,000 and I will achieve it. And the person's like, well, where's your portfolio? Well, I don't need it. I have it in here. Well, that's not enough for us to invest our money into your future, because you know what happens? You can become injured. You could transfer. You could, you know what I mean? You could say something racist. You could say something sexist. You could throw anything out the window to damage your credibility as a brand, and I don't want to work with you anymore. So it's kind of like That's too easy of a thing to say as if I go to Alabama, I'll make $1,000. If I go to C, I'll make $2,000. It doesn't work that way, right? That's just halfway. All right. Like now that high school athletes can make money in San Diego, Texas, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania's passing it now, Illinois, I believe. Now that those states are allowing this to go through, high schoolers who are committed to an Arizona, who are committed to go play women's basketball at Tennessee or UConn, those are probably the only ones who will make money. Because at the end of the day, Dad, you have to be someone.
Okay.
You can't just be Joe Schmo, who's the leading quarterback out of Kankakee, Illinois, the number one Illinois quarterback, and he gets an opportunity to go to Alabama, but then he's the fifth string quarterback and think he's still going to make money. He's not, right? Because he's the fifth string quarterback at Alabama. He has to do things on his part to make money for himself, right? Okay. He has to stand out in some sense.
No, it all makes sense now.
There is why someone like him maybe be like, well, I don't want to go to Alabama. Maybe I want to go to a MAC school and be the best quarterback in the MAC, and he could try to get money that way. So that's where you're starting to see kids not want to go to Alabama in certain situations. They want to go to Jacksonville State because Jacksonville State, they'll have a better opportunity. So it's just, it's not about the universities.
Okay.
And it's not about the programs. The programs just provide you the opportunity.
Okay.
To do something big, but you got to still produce.
But a variable in your decision is the brand of the university, how much they've been on national TV, how many championships they won. That's a variable that you got to look at also, right?
No one's watching the sideline.
Right. Okay, I get it. No, you explained that very well. I mean, I wasn't asking you a question. I truly did not understand that. I do.
It's such a surface level way of we're looking at it because that's the only way the media will cover it. The media will not dive into the fact that we have collectives now and that South Carolina women's basketball individually, each of those young ladies just got $25,000, right? They got $25,000 individually, and there's a list of things they have to do, and that's it. $25,000 just to give it to them, right? That's a recruiting tactic. That's where we're starting to see things get a little like, okay, they have an advantage because they have a boosters that are like, you know what, let's all get together. Let's say we want the athletes that join our collective to have to do autograph signings once a month. They have to come visit a classroom once every 2 months. They have to hop on a Zoom call with, right, all these things. Or they have like NC State women's basketball has a collective, and they just did something for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So they had the ladies come in, take photos for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and then posted it. And then they put on their Instagram stories, help us donate for breast cancer. And then it's like a competition. So like one young lady's making $600 towards the cause and $300 towards the cause. That's just a campaign within the overall collective. That's just one of the things they have to do. So they're not making the $600 for themselves, but because they're part of the collective that's doing these campaigns that maybe are for nonprofit organizations or maybe it's for something bigger, they're getting an overall piece of the money though. So it's like a job in a way, right? Like if say you're at Ball State, this is a better way to explain it. Say you're at Ball State and the alumni come together and they're like, we're going to create the Muncie, Indiana Collective. All right, cool. Schaefer, do you want to join the Muncie, Indiana Collective? We will give you $5,000 on a signing, and then you get a bonus every time you do an event. Okay? You're like, sure. I mean, you guys are doing it for me. You're just telling me what I need to do. No problem. You join, right? You get $5,000 right away, right? Then, all right, Schaefer, we need you at Dick's Sporting Goods for a autograph signing for the new footballs they have coming in, and we would love to have a few of the Ball State football players there. All right, I'm there. Then you get maybe $100 an hour, right? So they're just ways for you. Well, it's actually $2,000, but you get those opportunities through the collective. And the only issue with that is that's where recruiting is impacted, because if you have a strong collective, if you have strong boosters, if you have strong alumni providing those opportunities for your athletes, dang right they want to come play at Ball State. Yes, they want to play at South Carolina, right? So there's that. That's where the coaches have to come together. They have to be like, yo, what do we do in university? Where's our boosters? Where's our alumni? What are we building here? And that's where there needs to be guidelines, because at Gonzaga, they have something called the Friends of Spike. They have one collective. But at Michigan, they've got four collectives, right? And so now you're starting to see like what happens when one collective doesn't want you to sign to the other collective. What happens when these collectives are being used as tools for recruitment illegally, right? So a whole bunch of stuff going on there. And that's probably the only disadvantage we're seeing right now, is that there's no guidance on the collective. But everything else has been, I mean, if you want to make the money, you'll do the work to make the money. And if the kids who are like, I don't really care, they're living their lives exactly like they did before NIL happened.
Okay. Wow. So, powerful. Thank you for that insight.
No, information. Great conversation today. Of course, everyone, thank you for joining us. Focus. This is our show. On use our stories and our adversity to strengthen and sustain the community around us, and of course, our slogan.
I go like God. I go like faith. I go like love.
Have a wonderful Monday. See you guys soon.